recording. And I believe that even though we have it listed in the participants, that we actually have to officially call out roll.
Okay.
Do you want to do that, Angelique? Should we have Tom do it?
Let's have Tom because yes. I'm having
Tom, do you have the roster?
I have the roster. It's at the top of the minutes. And we have Kastner. I think she's not here. Court. I see you, but you're muted.
I'm here.
Janet.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm here. I muted myself instead of unmuting myself.
Desmarais, she's resigned. Gauthier. Do not see Gauthier. Jenkins.
Jenkins has also been dropped.
Okay. You've got yes. Kingsbury.
Present.
Lewis, not present. Tanner.
Here.
Thank you. Weist, I'm here. Will. Not present. Winnick.
Here.
Okay, I think that's it.
Well, I'm also here.
I was gonna say Ludwig. All right, I think we got everyone, and I do want to just make note that I have sent in, so I got everybody's oath that needed to do them. Thank you all so much for working with me on that, and I have put in a request again to have our roster updated to our current members, and so I will ensure that our next meeting we will have a current roster available online. I mean, I provide it to you, but when someone's looking online, that they'll have the access to the current roster. Okay, Angelique, do you want to call for adoption of the agenda? Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
Are there any amendments that anyone would like to make to the agenda?
No.
I move adoption of the agenda.
I second.
Did I say I move adoption to the agenda? All right. I move.
Yeah, I was gonna say because of a smaller committee, for these next actions, the agenda and the minutes, you can just say all in favor, say aye, all against.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all in against, if you have a nay, now is the time.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move on to minutes. Yes. And so we'll have a review of the minutes from May 20th.
June 10th. Did I not send out the right ones?
I think it's June 10th.
I have.
June 10th.
Well, I'm looking at May 20th.
No, June 10th.
It could be, that could be my bad.
No,
I'm
it's
looking
right.
at
You did
the,
it right, okay, Christina.
Why do I? Okay, well, I'm confused.
there are June 10th minutes attached to the
Yes.
agenda that was set out.
Okay, so I see the June 10th meeting notes here as well. So clearly I'm not well versed in this, but we'll get through it.
You're doing great.
So am I to review the meeting notes verbally, or are we just to look over them and decide that we need to make an addition to them or to amend something, correct?
Or to adopt, yep.
Adopt. Do we have anything that we need to adopt into the notes for our June 10th meeting?
If not, I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
Okay, do we have a movement to accept the minutes as written?
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, fantastic.
And Next. Why do I'm still wondering why I have those minutes on my the May 10th minutes? And then now what are we doing? We're going back to the agenda.
And we're moving to adopt the minutes.
I thought we adopted the minutes.
Oh, yeah, but we got to vote.
Yep, all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Any against? Going once, going twice. Bam. I can't wait till I get called out for saying bam in an official meeting.
You know, language is evolving, so.
It really is. It really is. And if at my age I can't push that, then who can, right?
We don't want to hear from you about age, Christina. We just,
I love getting older personally. This is my passion. This work is my passion.
It beats the alternative.
It sure does.
So with that being said, it sounds like the next part of our meeting will go into the discussion.
Yep.
And so do we have special guests today? It appears. No? I guess I have not met Jess and
Gabriella.
Gabriella. Okay.
Do you have the right agenda?
No, they're on here on the screen.
They're on the call.
Christine.
Oh, right. No, I
They're
know
on
they
the
are.
screen.
I have June 10th online meeting discussion, meet the urban scholars who are working on the aging action plan engagement.
So that's last month's.
I'm confused. I don't
So who are
have,
the two people on the screen, Christina? That's
Yep.
muted.
Yep, they are. They're here just to watch. What had happened last month, Angelique, I know you had business to take care of. And so in the very beginning of our agenda last month, we had our urban scholars talk about the work that they're doing on updating the aging action plan.
that's the agenda I have is
Okay.
now so there's a Word version and there's a PDF version. I was looking at the PDF version, which is June, and the Word version is July.
Okay, perfect.
So that's where I'm coming up on the difference in months. Okay.
Angelique, are you
Not
looking
that
at
slow. I'm
at
like,
the agenda
um,
that Christine set out yesterday?
okay, so today's discussion will be regarding an update on the budget proposal
Yes.
and senior service dollars moving from health to NCR.
And what does NCR stand for?
Neighborhood and community relations.
Okay, thanks.
Is there something else that I need to say for us to start the discussion, or?
Christina, are you giving a report
So
on
yep,
that?
I will lead that,
Oh.
and I'm just putting in the chat, the rest of the agenda.
Okay.
Which I'm paraphrasing the agenda just for time's sake. So Paulette actually had reached out and wanted to know if I could provide an update on so we're going through the budgeting process right now for the city of Minneapolis, which is one thing. And there is also some federal dollars that are coming into the city. You'll hear the term ARPA, and it stands for American Recovery something something. I can find the acronym if you are that interested. Anyways, but it's one-time funding, very large amount of money that's coming in. I won't go too into the weeds about those dollars. What has happened is the mayor's office and Jeremy Schrader's office in conversation put forward a request really led by Jeremy Schrader's office for $250,000 to go to our ongoing senior services as well as expanding those services to ensure that our cultural communities and historically underserved community elders have access to these funds. And so far, the first round of this particular process has moved forward. No one's quite sure why health was mentioned as receiving these dollars, but long story short, it was all taken care of. But to be official, because it was originally proposed as these funds going into health, Schrader's office put forward an amendment, just simply shifting the request for so we're not guaranteed this yet. Just the request that's in that as it moves forward is going to go into my department, which is NCR and not health. So that's the clarification of what that amendment means.
And what again, can you break down the acronym of NCR again, please?
Neighborhood and community relations.
Okay.
And we are our own department. We're not a division. We are an actual department housed in the coordinators, underneath the coordinator. So we report to the coordinator. In our department is our cultural engagement specialist and other community engagement specialists, such as myself. We also have what we call the neighborhoods team, who handle all of the neighborhood organizations and their contracts and their programming, and in partnership with our neighborhood organizations throughout the city. And we also have, as of the last few years, a new division, which is the the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. So that is also now within my department.
Christina,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Angelique.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you have a question?
I have a question. Is there some kind of application form for a portion of the money? I could imagine working on a partnership, for example, trying to get an extremely good rate with Best Buy since they're headquartered in the Twin Cities, getting tablets to seniors in need and underserved populations, and then having cyber seniors do the training on that to help seniors be connected.
So like I said, we have not been given that funding. The request is in.
Okay, so we have to wait for the request. Do we know if there's going to be what the procedure would then be, or do we just have to wait?
We would just have to wait to see what the requirements are. But to answer your question about what we would call at the city an RFP, which is a request for proposal,
Yeah.
that is not off the table. That is part of the conversations.
Okay.
Okay, so I also see that Hazel raised your hand. Did you have a question?
I do. I mean, I don't know if I, in my mind wandered, but I'm trying to figure out why you said the funding the dollars went from health to NCR. And does it seem like you guys can disperse the funding better? Or rather than the health? I missed that. I'm missing that connection.
So originally the thought was it would go to NCR. So we're not quite sure how health even became involved. The contracts that I currently manage for my department, for senior services, used to be in health and were transferred over here for a multitude of reasons. Nonetheless, they've been in health, or I'm sorry, in my department for 6 years now. So it just seemed to make sense just to continue that mode of programming. If we do go an RFP route, I already have an RFP that's been established, et cetera, et cetera. Health did weigh in on, what does this look like, just to ensure that there wasn't some other interest or something that health put in that got confused, et cetera. So everything's been clear. And to clean it up, there's a proposal. There's an amendment that needs to be voted on to ensure that the request of $250,000 for senior services is put into NCR's department budget.
Okay. I
Okay,
just,
It's really a formality. The intent was always for it to be an NCRs. And there was a lot of confusion when when the proposals for this particular set of funding came out and health was named, not NCR. And I think it's just because it is, a lot of it is public health and nursing, et cetera. So I think whoever was preparing this, just logically, you would think it would go in health just by terminology. But
and so you, I think you answered with Beth's question. So the money is it earmarked for specific reasons, or you're gonna be proposing grants for people to apply?
as of now, it is for to support our ongoing and expanding services that support our senior population to stay in their home and or their community. So there's a lot of, I feel that there's some flexibility with how we tie it all together if we were to be granted these dollars.
Okay.
thank you. Tom, you had your hand raised next.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what the limitations were on the use of the money, but I think you may have just answered that, unless we're gonna look at the exact language of the resolution.
So right now the proposal is as I stated, but once the final vote, like anything can happen, right? You know how this all goes. So I really, I, I I just want to be very transparent that right now this is all proposed and anything can change at any moment. Everything from the dollar amount to its explicit uses, whether we get it at all of it.
So today's update was primarily that it's moving over from health to NCR and to
Right.
be continued.
And
because-
that it's there. I wanted folks just to be aware because I know that we all have relationships and we all also have organizations that support our aging work throughout the city. So, I definitely want to keep my committee first and foremost well abreast of, what's moving internally, for us to keep an eye out and watch for updates.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Melinda, I saw your hand. Yes.
I'm just curious if this is one-time funding, Christina, or will this be ongoing?
One time.
Okay.
Yep, this is one-time federal dollars, part of the Recovery Act.
Okay.
This particular chunk doesn't mean that there won't be more chunks that come, depending on how the big kahuna is at the top with the coin purses feel. But as of right now, this is one-time funding.
Okay.
$200,000 will go quickly.
250.
250. It's still, when you look at, that's not that much.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like a couple pair of Louboutins.
Yeah. Well,
Just kidding.
now Beth, did you have another question or did you want to
I
respond?
I did.
Okay.
I just was curious what the timeline is, Christina. Do you know when they're voting?
I was trying to quickly look that up before, but
Sorry, before someone asked. Yeah.
No, I know. I wanted to be more prepared than I am, and I'm gonna apologize, but I
That's
will
okay.
definitely be giving you the timeline on the voting.
Okay.
As well as final decision. I'm writing this down. Like just the whole process. I feel like that's been a moving target too. So I
Okay.
don't feel quite as bad for not knowing solidly, but I should at least know like when they're gonna vote on this amendment. So, and that's my apologies. Because I'm not sure if it's also sitting in our home committee and then goes to full council, or if it's in a different committee. So I have to find out the logistics of all that.
And do we know do we have a ballpark number? I don't know if the committee's talked about this in the past, of how many, and of course this is a moving number, but do we have an approximation of how many seniors are in need in the city of Minneapolis?
I would say we don't.
Okay.
We really don't. If using a lens of equity, like thinking just across of all of our elders.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a moving
those,
definition, I
those
realize.
who aren't who don't have homes, who are
Right.
precariously housed, who are undocumented, like all of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
Who would collect that information? Who would get that?
so I'm curious if Wilder has anything like that, or if the state in their new effort has tried to do that, but I don't know that they've done it to a macro level versus a statewide level.
Yeah, I wonder if a university,
I
like
mean, a
either
micro,
the U or McAllister, or like
sure,
if there's data. I'm just thinking if I want to go to Best Buy and ask them to donate to seniors in need in the city, if I could give
sure.
them a number.
What I feel could happen when it comes to something like that is that we could certainly pull up the American Community Survey, or depending on how deep the census data has been rolled out, just to have an assessment of how many elders are listed at or below poverty level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone's in need in one way or the other, of course. So that's
Right,
a
right.
kind of
Yep,
kooky term, but
yep.
okay.
So that would be something, as we move down, I'm more than happy to help any organization think about what type of data and information and how to talk about the need and to justify, if there is an RFP or if there's an opportunity for collaboration, et cetera.
Yeah.
On that
Okay.
same vein, Christina, I think I've asked for this before. Is there a way to get a number of the seniors who live in each ward, the seniors?
Um,
If there's a congregated more in one section than another?
um, I feel like there'd probably be some number crunching. I know that we would be able to do that once we establish what age a senior is. Well, I
I'm
mean,
thinking 65 and older, because what also come across my mind again, it was like the pedestrian fatalities that we had for a while
yep,
there.
yep,
For the red lights and stuff,
yep.
they go
When you talk,
came too
yep,
quick.
yep. When we talk about just flat out statistics, and generalizations, we usually start at age 65 because that's the age of Medicare.
Yeah.
For my planning purposes, historically, even for this committee, I've started at age 50.
The ARP number.
So,
Wow.
You have your junior seniors,
Junior seniors.
your seniors, and
Yeah.
then your elders.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, yeah, you can't lump them all together. I mean, there's generational differences between a 75-year-old and an 85-year-old.
Yeah, that's true.
And so,
And thinking about the older adults, any minute I'm waiting for news on when my grandbaby's coming. So
that's exciting.
it really is. It really is.
So
Um,
exciting. Oh my gosh.
I know. But anyways, grandma here digresses.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
But
we're done.
yeah, so yes, Hazel, yes. So we would be able to do some number crunching because we definitely would be able to get that data down to neighborhood level. I'm pretty confident in saying that. And then looking at the neighborhoods that construct a ward.
That would be excellent to know. I would love to have that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be so helpful.
Yeah, I might reach out to my statisticians. I used to love doing this type of number crunching, but
Really?
if I had time, I would do it. I
It's a
love
great project for an intern, honestly.
it actually is. Well, and this could actually be valuable information for our action plan.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So I have talked with my urban scholars about what data collection looks like,
Yep.
and I think this would be a good project.
Yeah.
Is there any other commentary or questions on this agenda item? I take that as a no.
That's a no.
So we can move on to the next topic, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I needing to say yay, nay, or any of that, or we just move?
No, no. And I just want to let folks know that ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan Act.
And how you pronouncing it?
And what's the name of the act again?
America Rescue Plan Act.
America Rescue Plan Act.
ARPA. Gotta have an acronym.
Absolutely.
Is that AMPRA?
ARPA.
Huh? AM?
ARPA, ARPA, American
ARPA.
Rescue Plan
Okay.
Act.
Mhm. I'm trying to find out how much is coming to Minneapolis, which I should know. Let's see. The first two rounds. So it's the first two rounds of 271 million in federal funding awarded to the city of Minneapolis.
So we're getting like 1%?
So it looks like it's going in a couple rounds. I can find out the real nitty-gritty details and send them out if that's of interest to people. It's online. You'd be able to find it pretty easy. They actually they're asking for public input on top of it, so.
Okay. We've gathered all the information we can gather on this subject for now.
Yep.
So let's move into our next agenda item for the discussion, which is talking about in-person meetings starting in August.
This is at Westminster? Is that the church? I mean, where's the parking?
So I can tell you about Westminster. I'm a little biased because I work at Westminster, but I don't want anyone to feel pressure to come to Westminster. Parking. Here's a good reason to meet at Westminster. It is located downtown in a central location, which is on 12th and Nicollet, is one side of the building, or 12th and Marquette. So we're right there along the Nicollet Mall. There will be underground parking, so you can just pull right up into the parking ramp. For those driving, if you decide that you want to use public transportation or using public transportation, there's several buses that run right up and down the Nicollet Mall that will bring you practically to the front door of the building. And it is set up a lovely space for conferences, presenters. If you do need to be on Teams that day and can't make it in, there's a way that maybe we can do a little bit of both. And Westminster, again, is just really a beautiful space. We would be in the garden room. So there's a garden room outside and or a garden outside. And
So what's the cost of parking?
so parking would be $5 for parking.
And
And can
all spaces always available?
There's 350, there's 300 parking spaces.
Yeah, do other people utilize
Not,
that facility for parking?
I don't think I've ever seen the parking ramp completely full with 300 cars. So there'll definitely be space for you during the week, especially during the time that we meet.
Yeah, and I'm just so you all know, because we used to provide parking and bus tokens and stuff, I'm looking at, or I'm not looking at, I'm figuring out how to enact that again.
Okay.
So whether it would be reimbursing you directly, which is inconvenient, which may have to happen for the next month. But that being said, moving forward, just thinking if there's, I'll work with Angelique though.
Yeah, we'll
If
work
there's
on
like a
the
way to
parking.
bill or
Yeah.
something.
So
Or
what's the
purchase tickets or whatever it is.
what's the exact address for that?
So the address is 1200 Marquette.
Is there more than one entrance to the parking ramp, or there's sign?
There's one entrance to the parking ramp. And what I can do is just send out an email that gives you directions on how to get to the parking ramp. That's on Alice Rainville Way, which is We're right next to the Millennium Hotel on the Nicollet Mall. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but we're not that far from the convention center either. So we're down towards that end of the mall.
Okay.
And really just asking, how do you all feel about meeting in person? Also, this isn't something that we have to do. So I wanted to ask, what do you think?
Has everybody been vaccinated? Is there's adequate space to still be socially distant where we
Yes,
meet?
we definitely have adequate space to be socially distanced.
I'm okay. I mean, I haven't been in any group activity at all. Small numbers, 3 or 4 at the most, since this pandemic. So I've had both of my vaccines. I'm good on that, but I'm still kind of leery with the Delta variant.
So, Janet, I'm going to just kind of let people kind of chime in and then we'll circle back. Is that okay to kind of?
Yeah.
So, Janet, I see you had your hand.
Yeah, just make sure you let us know, those of us that are taking public transportation, how, where the entrance is that we're supposed to use, because we'll be
Okay.
coming from a little different angle probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bus routes.
Well, I'm pretty sure the 18 goes there, right?
There's the 18, the 11, the 10. There's quite a few buses that run down the Nicollet Mall. The 17.
17. No, the 5 does not. And I don't believe any of those I'm so unfamiliar. If you have a bus route that you use, I'm more than happy to check to see if it goes down Nicollet to Westminster. With all the new rapid transit additions, I'm not as comfortable with my familiarity of the bus routes anymore.
So then we have, Beth, you were next to.
Yeah, I have a couple. Okay, first of all, I'd love to meet with you all in person because it'd be really nice to get together and see all your faces and share a cup of coffee or whatever and just see you all. But that said, I do still work and I often have a conference call right adjacent to this. What would we still, I mean, you referenced, Angelique, that we could maybe sometimes do a hybrid if it was, necessary to call in. I also imagine during the worst of the winter, it might be better to do it this way so people don't have to worry about ice and such, because we know that'll be coming. And I'm also wondering what is the history of when people met in person? Where did they always do that? And do the bylaws say you have to meet at so-and-so location? Does anyone know any of these things?
I can answer the bylaws.
Okay.
And it's really not the bylaws, it's the open meeting laws. As far as hybrids are concerned, there's still some education that I need to do on hybrids. And here's according to open meeting law, that there needs to be established locations for members. So if half of us are meeting at Westminster as the official public meeting space, those who are joining us virtually would have to disclose where they're doing that from, which is kind of creepy, my personal opinion. I don't think anybody wants to be throwing out their home addresses. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to not disclose 3 times annually. So maybe that's something to consider as well. But I need to find out, like, what I don't know yet, and I'm sure it's been announced, but my apologies. I'm still trying to come off my vacation from Boston and catch up. Even if the governor does not or did not he hasn't yet made the decision, extend the public health emergency, the city can, which means that we can still meet virtually in this capacity, even if some of us meet, in person, it's virtual. like I can be sitting at Westminster with Angelique and Melinda and whoever. We all have our laptops, but we're all meeting virtually. It's still considered a virtual meeting versus meeting at Westminster.
Okay.
It just happens to be the place where us 3 or 4, whoever is at. And I have a feeling that I'm gonna talk to you later. Sorry about that, colleagues. It's so fun being back in the office. I have a feeling that the city, my understanding is that the conversations that they are going to extend this declaration of public health emergency through September. So we have a lot of flexibility. So we can, again, I can also reach out to those who are not present today to see how they feel too.
Melinda, I saw you had your hand raised, and then Tom, you're next.
I think we need to consider how safe people feel about taking public transit. For those who are transit dependent, getting to the meeting, you have to feel comfortable doing that. So I think that's a consideration we have to have about meeting in public. So just my 2 cents.
Do you take public transportation, Melinda?
I don't, but I know some of our members do. And I just want to make sure they feel comfortable taking public transit with COVID. And, I know people mask and all that, but, sometimes you're exposed to folks who aren't vaccinated in close proximity in that environment. So just being cognizant of that for our members who do take transit.
Noted. Tom?
Yeah, I just want to say that I had another committee I was on that has met at least once in person rather than virtually, and it was really nice. It was just really nice. And part of it was not just the meeting itself, but the fact that you could have sort of short side conversations, if someone, just to say something to someone that it moves things along once in a while for people to sort of realize that what they agree on before there's, while other people are talking, and that's helpful.
Thank you, Tom. Beth, you had your hand up, but then did you take it down? No.
Janet.
Okay. And now Janet, Miss Janet.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I do take public transportation, and yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable doing it, and it is getting a little more crowded than it was in the past, but
Okay.
I don't know. I'm vaccinated, and I feel comfortable
Okay.
in most situations. So yeah.
And having the capacity, I know, Christina, you're saying you kind of need to figure out more about doing hybrids, but we do have the capacity for people to conference call in as well. So I'm thinking of Flow as a good example of, Flow can still, we have the resources. And I'll say one other thing, and then I like the ideal of the cohesiveness that it could build with our committee. And there is something to be said for, at least sometimes, of all just sitting down face to face versus looking through screens at one another. Miss Hazel?
I think you kind of answered my question. That was the thing I was going to ask, if we can have, once we go back to meeting in person, is that the only way? Because like I used to call in when I was away, but can we still have the team? Because I like to be able to see. Before when I called in, and I'm off, sometimes you get sidetracked when you're just listening on the phone. But I'm more engaged when I can see people on the iPad. So can we have that option?
I can actually answer that.
Yeah. You mentioned about a 3-time thing.
Yep. Well, I was told that true open meeting law, you have to see them. Before it wasn't required, but now with what was just passed, you actually have to see. So I will have to figure out, like, if we're gonna go through that. And by the way, I'm pushing back on a lot of this stuff because to me it's not equitable.
But you're
Because I'll
seeing
have to
us on
figure
this
out,
one.
Yeah, Flo
to
hasn't been
what
able
to do
to
for
have the
Flo if
technology.
she's
Yeah.
not able to, you know what I'm saying? So, so I really posed a lot of questions around equity and access. And we'll see where that goes.
And we have the technology capacity, so I can confirm that. I mean, we have the capability again to do that, to hold the meetings and have a screen, a projector and
Sure, sure. Have like
Oh.
a hybrid model. It really, I just have to figure out how, if there's some way that we can allow those who just can't make it in, like Miss Flo, um,
Right.
if they can call in because they just don't have access to technology. So,
Were there any other comments or questions around this particular topic? And is this something, do you think, how should we handle making a decision around this topic? As far as, is there anyone that's not wanting to meet in person?
Well, I want to meet in person when I can, but I have my job commitments at the same time. So sometimes if it's back to back, it just, I can't get back and forth in time is the problem.
Okay. So
So,
maybe we could think about, we've addressed it here to start,
Yeah.
and there's people missing from the conversation. We're kind of short on people
Yeah.
today. So do we want to carry this forth or to ask those other people that couldn't be a part of the conversation, or do we want to, what should we do next? I guess.
Yes, just contact the ones who are missing from today. I think if you can send an email to that effect. Because are you looking at maybe not meeting at Westminster next month to get the input from other people or what?
Well, it would be helpful to know, only so that we're not,
We can set up.
reserving the space and then not using it. So
is a 2-week timeline sufficient for us to have an answer?
I think so, yeah.
Christina, are there guidelines on what the meeting location needs to be? Like, does it need to be city owned? Does it need to be private? Kind of, is it there a separation between city and church or something that we have to be mindful of?
Nope.
Okay, good.
And no one will be, if it's because it's in a church,
It's
it's
meeting
just
space.
it's a beautiful space. You really have to see it. It's used by a lot of different community organizations and nonprofits. And so we welcome a lot of different community into the space. Tom, your mic is off, but I see your hand.
I move that we agree to meet at Westminster next month just to see how it works. You know, we can decide not to do it again if we find that it doesn't work, but I think one time is worth trying, and then we can also see how it works for the folks who aren't here. But I think it's better to try something than kind of guess. So I move we meet at Westminster next month.
Hey, that makes sense. We'll have a trial run and see. Would anyone like to second that?
I'd second it. I won't be able to be at the meeting either way next month, but I'll second it because I think it makes sense.
All right, then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any nays? Now is your time.
Good.
All right, wonderful. Moving forward, let's see here. Timeline for minutes and agenda to Christina.
It's just all about me this meeting. I'm so sorry. And this is just to help me because I'm naughty. I'm the naughty city employee. I'm actually committed to doing the marked agenda as soon as we're done with this meeting.
You're a troublemaker.
I just seem to push boundaries, timelines, etc. But so I'm asking for your help to rein in your city employee here. I really need if for those who want to provide input, and I'll reach out to Ernie as well. I really need to have our agenda items set the Friday before our meeting. So almost a week before. And same with the minutes aren't as crucial, Tom, but I'm just thinking for simplicity's sake, just the Friday before. And I also wanted to propose, before we close out our meeting each time, if people want to have an agenda item, especially if it requires like a guest, like someone from Public Works or whatever, which allows me time then to try and coordinate that. How does everybody feel about Friday before our meeting
That's fine for me with
Fine.
the minutes. I can do that.
and for agenda items?
That's
Like
fine.
I came up with these agenda items except for the one that Paulette suggested. And this is your meeting. This is for you. I'm your staff and I'm here to support. So
It makes sense, and there's something to be said for planning an agenda, which is something I took for granted many years because I didn't write the agenda. So when I had to, I'm like, oh, like there's a little bit of skill to go into this if you want an effective meeting.
right, right.
So yeah,
All
so
right,
you're
great.
not having to at the last minute think of things.
Yep, and I'll put out a reminder too. I'm scheduling myself a reminder to send to everybody like on Wednesday that our Friday's coming up. And then I'll be back in good graces with our clerk's office.
Oh, okay.
Did we have
They're
any?
amazing people. They are phenomenal people. The amount of work that they have to navigate is like I can't even wrap my brain around it. So
I've always been terribly impressed with their office.
oh my, it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. They have to accomplish on a daily basis. It's just mind blowing.
Do we have any commentary on that or questions regarding the timeline for minutes and agenda? Janet, were you going to say something? No? Okay. All right. And we are all in agreement that it'll be a week prior to the meeting. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move on now to an update on external funding for home repairs. Miss Hazel, you might especially want to know about this.
Well, I'm running into dead ends that just, I'm getting a little despondent about the feedback that I'm getting, because I did meet with, had the telephone conversation with Marion Green. And again, there is no resources, but she did say that she's going to check with Human Services to find out about resources for seniors, specifically grants to support people staying in their homes. Example, help installing the rail bars in the shower, social worker to visit a home to advise on what improvement would be recommended, fewer rugs on the floor, installation of rail bars, etc. And then she CC'd uh, her principal aide, Ely Farhat, to find out further information and to get back to me. Well, Ely did not. So I checked with him this morning. So he said he had dropped the ball and he's sorry, but he will get back to me with that information. And then I also, she was going to copy Binta Conte with Commissioner Angela Connolly's office. I haven't heard from them, but again, I left a message for Binta today to see if they have any follow-up information for me. Then I have another girlfriend of mine who knows of a fellow named Carlos who has a shop not too far from here, who is also interested in helping seniors. And I need to stop at his, if it's not that far, it's right off of 48th and 4th Avenue, not far from my house. So I'm gonna stop when I'm on one of my errands to go and check with him to see how he's doing. But I think a part I was asking before, but the grant, because a couple of people who are like I know my electrician and construction guy, they want some assistance with if they can apply for grants to help with seniors. And so I'm still looking for if there's any way that they can do that. I know the city doesn't single out any one organization, but if there's a grant for RFP to do that, I think we can get some more help. The other thing I was thinking about is, I don't know how we would do it, but to go to some of well, the only trade school I know is Dunwoody, no, there's
Summit,
Dunwoody here.
Summit.
Summit, Summit and Dunwoody. I was getting ready to say Delgado, but Delgado's in New Orleans.
Ah,
See, and then I know Roosevelt used to have a carpentry uh, portion in there, in the school. But I don't know if they, since we haven't had the school with it. Anyway, if we can do like an internship with some of the tradespeople on it, to see if it could help students, as to help build and replace and stuff like that. So that was another idea that I had, but I don't know how to get started. Like I said, when I keep reaching out, it looks like I keep getting against the wall. But it seems to me there should be a way to do this some way. I mean, to me it seems simple, but money is the deal, So the money is the product. Because I don't want a lot of seniors don't have the funding to do those simple changes because they're living from paycheck to paycheck as it is. But it may be minor costs, to somebody else, but has a major cost for them.
it's
But
all,
Well, and it
stay at
it
home.
saves the society a lot
yeah,
of money too when
Right.
people have to move out of their houses. It just does.
Yeah,
yeah. Nobody wants to have nickel and dime repairs turn into, I have to leave my home now
right,
because my house eventually turned, into an unlivable house when
right,
it could have been someone there to help them with that expense and task.
right, right.
So it is very important. Um,
So that's my report.
it just, again, like it's sad that there aren't any resources really available. And I feel like there used to be. There used to be a tool lending. I remember Pilot City, which is now North Point, had a tool lending and sharing that a lot of people used, and elders, and
I
nothing
think there's
existed.
still a tool library in Northeast Minneapolis someplace. I have not used it, but I know people who have.
But there should be, you would hope there would maybe be more,
Yeah,
so that every neighborhood has that option.
right.
So our,
Yep.
I feel
I
like our conversation, oh, I'm sorry, Christina, our conversation again was going back to
You
not,
sharp now, Angelique.
huh? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, I'm confused.
it's
Can
okay.
you hear me, Hazel?
My mind's just breaking up.
Huh.
Christina, I recall okay, it's been a
Okay.
whole month, but
We
I know
need
we
to do
went all
something like
through
that.
finding people to, who will support the work. And it went back to really one thing. And it wasn't creating the manual. It wasn't redoing the database online for services. It was something else that we identified as being the true need. And
and
can you,
that's a navigator. That's a
that was
navigator
a
to not only find the
navigator.
resources, but to take that older adult from here's a resource that you're going to qualify for, and I will walk you through it until the application's processed.
Yeah.
So basically a home repair navigator. I was gonna suggest, because I caught wind that there are, through all these federal dollars coming around, that there are federal dollars that are coming down that are specific to this. And I can reach out to Lisa Smeested, who's in our environmental health department, who really seems to have a pulse on all of this funding specific to like lead abatement and home repair, hoarding, etc. And ask if she's willing to come and give an update at next month on what she knows. By then, because the federal dollars are coming out fast and furious, and by then, I feel like to reach out now, she may not have like solid answers. The closer we get to our meeting, she'll probably have more detailed information on what is there, if anything, you know, was there applications like by Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity, but they didn't get it, or, you know what I mean? Or they did, and now, woo, they're our go-to, right? Like our
Can we,
one-stop shop.
can we put that on our agenda for next week, next
Yep.
month?
I mean, that's what I'm asking, if that, if
Yes,
folks feel that's a
yeah.
good idea.
Yes.
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 Were there any more updates on funding or this topic? Any more questions or input regarding this
One thing I
topic?
can report is that the city is now looking to once again pull together their own hoarding task force.
Hoarding task force?
Well,
Which is, you know, is a component of helping older adults stay in their home and addressing.
Definitely.
So, and really part of this task force is really looking at a holistic approach, not just how do we pay for a clean out, but like all the components that
That lead up to
interrelate,
hoarding.
that to
I-
address a person
I-
who hoards.
I can report that about 10 days ago, maybe a week ago, my city council person was door knocking the neighborhood, and I was able to talk to him for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes about navigators. And he remembered, because people mentioned it at the previous meeting, that the city once had a navigator. And he said, yes, he had a name. I'm not sure it was even the same person that we mentioned at the meeting, but there was this, he mentioned a woman who he said was very helpful for folks along those lines. And, you know, and he seemed willing to support, because he knew that that position had been terminated too. He was willing to support trying to move forward with positions like that. So if your city council people come around, talk to them.
Thank you, Tom.
We do have navigators. I'm just not sure what their purview is anymore. Historically, what they did is exactly because they were housed in my department, and so I would go out with the navigators and meet with the older adults, and the navigator then would find resources, help them fill out the applications. They actually did all that, and I just don't know how that program's evolved. Or what their capacity is. Maybe I don't know about it because they really just don't have, they're not supported enough. So, and Lisa will have that information too, for sure.
Janet, I see you had your hand raised.
Yeah, some of us just need assistance. It's like we don't want to necessarily be hoarders, but it's very hard for us to get rid of things we need to get rid of as we get older. We don't have cars to haul it away, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think there's maybe instead of calling this, yeah, I think they probably need a better name for it so that it includes maybe people who have slid into hoarding, but also includes people who don't want to be hoarders but are having difficulty in getting rid of.
And downsizing.
Yes,
That's what they
That's a
call it.
great
yeah.
idea.
Right.
Helping people downsize, because I know from my personal experience with older people in my family and even my mom now, it can be very overwhelming going through all of your things and letting them go and having an emotional attachment and just, I mean, and again, just physically overwhelming, you know. And I think that's what Christina was speaking to, of taking more of a holistic approach rather
Yes.
than just coming and ripping away, or how people may feel like you're just ripping away my,
Right.
you know, my belongings and things that are precious to me. And so some of it, hoarding is a mental condition. It's a very much a real thing, but then there's also people that just need assistance with downsizing. So
Absolutely. This is such a real thing. My parents are in their 80s, and I know my mom opens cabinets, sits and looks at all the stuff inside, and just gets too overwhelmed to sit
yeah,
and go through it all. So she just closes it back up because she doesn't need the space. So she's like, I'll just leave it out there. And it's, I mean, psychologically, physically, it's all of these things. And it's, you know, the energy, but it's also helping seniors make the decisions of what's helpful to keep and what's helpful to get rid of and go on to, you know, maybe someone else that could use it. Because then there are
Well,
those things too.
Well, there's another component. I mean, I have lots of things that I probably should have thrown away, but they have memories attached to them.
Absolutely.
And so, you have something and it reminds you of your mother or of this friend, and you don't need it or use it anymore, but you like coming across it every once in a while just to remember an event or a person. And
Yeah.
that's hard to break away from.
And I
Technology can help with that too if people photograph certain things, and sometimes people we've learned from some of our seniors in our programs that they recommend doing that, especially if it's something that they don't particularly like but it holds a memory, whether it's a painting or a vase. They don't want it out, but they just want the memory of it. And sometimes learning how to use your photographs in your iPad and make it your own slideshow can be helpful with that too.
And I think that within itself is a RFP of, again, holistically working with people to help them make decisions about what they can hold on to and what they should let go of. Where we live in the United States, where we can't go a day without an ad telling us to buy something. And then at the end of our lives, people are told, now you have to get rid of everything that we told you to work hard for and buy. And then you've accumulated things from other family members as well that have passed on. So you end
Oh
up
my
with
gosh.
all of these things. We have a lot, too much stuff. We all do. We have a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So, yes, Miss Janet.
Oh, no, I just accidentally wandered off mute.
Okay. You still have your hand raised, so I didn't. So did we have any other questions, commentary regarding the external funding for home repairs and downsizing and things of that nature?
I have a question about the navigator. How, because I didn't know the city had the navigator. I knew navigators for the Minshire, the insurance. I didn't know they had navigators to help seniors in their home. How is that disseminated to people to be aware of that's available for them?
So that's why I questioned capacity. As of right now, it is, they come in when there's an issue, like the city has issued a citation or, dealing with complaints from neighbors because of
So it's not
stuff in the
just for the
yard.
average
It's,
person.
at this point, it is, reactive, not
More
proactive.
penalizing than,
Yeah.
So
Well, it's not,
proactive.
it's to mitigate, it's to mitigate anything punitive. So, when inspections, no matter what inspections it is, everything from zoning to regulatory services, et cetera, come in and issue a citation and they realize it's an older adult or the older adult reaches out, and or the individual with disabilities, it all varies. Um, that's when the navigators are initiated. So as of right now, it's like I said, it's
Reactive, not
reactionary,
proactive.
it's not proactive,
Yeah.
which makes me question capacity. And knowing my experience with it, capacity is a huge issue. Like to open the floodgates would have people waiting and waiting and waiting, and that's not helpful either. So it's having these conversations with folks who like this is their purview, and they also have potential influence on advocating for more support and resources, especially with like these federal dollars coming in, et cetera. Like, what can we do to talk about support services that are needed? So,
You
yeah,
don't want,
because
go ahead.
I was just gonna say people they're afraid to let someone in their home because first they'll be embarrassed. They're concerned if the city comes in, they're going to see all these things, and then they're going to notice I need to have this repaired on my house. And then I may get cited for this. And then they may decide that I shouldn't be living alone, that someone should be looking out for me. And I don't, so it's so much more than just organizing things and getting rid of it. It's like a whole domino effect of, you know, what can occur. And I think that keeps people from seeking help as well. So
Yeah, very rarely is it an older adult who's reached out asking for help. Very rarely. Or they've asked for help with something kind of minuscule because they've gotten their tree branches are invading the alleyway or something simple. And so they'll ask for some help just to cut that. And it snowballs, right? Um, I think a wonderful model is Habitat for Humanity's Brush with Kindness, because not only do they do those type of home repairs and chore services, I don't know how much chore services they do, but they do the home repairs and stuff. And some of it's kind of extensive, but then they also have the Age Well at Home program where they have, uh, for lack of a better term, wellness workers, who come in and do a full on assessment. What else do you need? You know, and yes, it is the first thing that triggers is the older adult is frightened that they're going to be removed from their home first and foremost, because secondly, they can't afford what needs to be done.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to prevent.
That's right. So it all does tie in together.
Yes, yeah. So you call it Habitat for Humanity, you said something else with that?
Their program's called Brush with Kindness,
Oh, okay.
which also has the other program that's attached to it called Age Well at Home, which is a state program. And I don't know if the funding comes federally, but I just know it is a state of Minnesota's program.
I'm gonna circle back with a friend of mine, Henry Rucker, that works for PPL. But I
Okay.
think they work with her Habitat for Humanity and see if we know what he knows about that.
Yeah, that's great. I know that right now their website says that they are no longer taking applications for 2021, that you have to wait until 2022.
Okay.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left for our meeting. Can we move on to any unfinished business that we have? Yes? Okay, so it looks like the discussion to continue committee letters of recommendation to external organizations such as I said LinkedIn, Senior Linkage Line. So discussion to continue about committee influence externally. So how are we influencing?
It can also be internally as well, but we had talked about externally. As of right now, our committee's purpose, our role is to advise the council and mayor. But last meeting, we also talked about, you know, there's some challenges still with Senior Linkage Line and their subsequent website like mnhelp.info, and how do we as a committee, how do we set our boundaries and our focus?
Yeah.
Do we want to take some time, whether it's next meeting or the meeting after, like establishing here's what we would like to broach internally and or externally, such as we feel that the Senior Linkage Line really needs to do an overall assessment on their capacity to help older adults, when all we hear is that there's long wait times, there's, people don't feel like they've been serviced well, not a lot of resources are given to them, or what can, and why, like what are they experiencing? Do they not have capacity? Do they not have the financial resources, all that? And maybe that's beyond what we should be doing. But I think we should have as a committee, a solid sense of our purpose and then stick to that. So if we have an issue with Senior Linkage Line and we've decided that that's not what we as a committee are here to do, then great, that's an issue with Senior Linkage Line. We'll take it to our council members because that's who we influence, right? Or do you know what I mean? It's like, or we do decide as a committee that while we're advising council and mayor, if we recognize that services for seniors are falling short, then is it within our bailiwick to, and our purpose to reach out to that organization and say, hey, we as a committee would like to have a conversation with you about some concerns that we have about services you're providing.
Janet, did you?
Yeah, I think if we're interested in it, we might just want to have them come and speak to us because when I was on, I mean, because of COVID, they stopped having um, the native senior networking group has stopped meeting, but several times. I mean, actually, that group, the parent group for the senior linkage line, had a person, a dedicated person that came to all of those meetings, and also then took us there to go on a tour of their facilities and you know. Considerable amount of back and forth. So I think that they're much more open to input from us than I'd hate to see us develop a an adversarial relationship with a group that really wants to serve us and would probably go out of their way to do so.
Beth, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, a couple questions. Number one, is Senior Linkage Line, who is that run by? Is that city run? Is that a nonprofit? Is it state run? Okay. So I agree with Janet. What if I offer to contact Senior Linkage Line and talk to them? I'll try and get a hold of some manager or the executive director, just putting this out there, and ask how we could communicate to seniors in Minneapolis that Senior Linkage Line could be most effective for them. Maybe start with a conversation and then offer to have them come talk to our committee. Do you think that makes sense? That's question one. And then question two, another thought is, like, I don't know how many times a year or if in the past we have submitted proposals to the mayor and to council. What if we started doing that, I don't know, quarterly and said, here are our recommendations for seniors in the city. Has that been done? Should we be doing that?
I can tell you it hasn't been done as far as a slated schedule.
Okay.
It's been done when like an issue and a concern has been raised and the whole committee has agreed that there needs to be some advisement. Like a perfect example is at one point budgetarily, they were removing funding for senior services. And then the committee rallied as well as other community partners to restore the funding, which did get restored. So that's like one example. But there are definitely other examples.
Okay.
Janet? Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. I apologize. Tom was next to speak.
Yeah, I agree with Janet. I think inviting someone from Senior Linkage Line to come talk to us would be a good way to raise our issues with them. And I think it's much less confrontational than just sending them a report or a letter or you should do this. And I think and it could be more useful and so I think that's a good idea.
And then Janet?
I'm pretty sure that I actually talked to them about coming to talk to us at one time, and they seemed very open to it. So.
Okay.
And then can I add my comment to that? I think it's great that we're invitational and of course, initiate dialogue with them directly. But I can say, however, my experiences with Senior Linkage Line is they come out with their brochure, they have it all laid out, they know their spiel. And so, to see where that feedback may actually go, will it be considered or would anybody do anything with it? So I think it's good to, of course, be invitational, but then also think of, what if we want to follow up after that, to make a real impact.
Yeah.
Because they sent me a whole little goodie pack, and said we're back in the saddle, so to speak, or we're back in action, and all of their branded stuff. And I thought, this is all great. Like, you have the whole package here, but is it effective?
Right. Like, how is that getting to our limited and non-English speaking elders? How are you communicating to elders of different communities, such as our LGBTQ plus, that's a safe phone call? Our Native elders, why would they call you over service providers that are culturally appropriate? So
Yeah.
Now, they do have a very good relationship with the Native community and do provide all kinds of services that are, really Native specific, especially to natives on the reservations. However, I think it's a question of they kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease,
That's
and
right.
yeah, yeah,
So we
That's
got to be the squeaky wheel.
yeah.
Always.
Because I feel the enthusiasm. I feel like they really do want to be in service, or that it's not just a front, but we don't know kind of what goes on behind the scenes through their processes and leadership or whatever of how is it actually effective and efficient and what makes it work. And so, yeah, they need to hear back from people about what can make it work better for their people. Janet, your hand is still up. And then Beth, I see you nodding your head. Did you want to say something?
I'm just agreeing with you, so Janet, if you have a contact there, do you want to reach out to them again? Do you want me to?
We're having a
I think
hard
you're
time hearing
muted.
you, Janet. I
You're
think
muted, Janet.
I haven't talked to anybody in the last about year and a half since COVID. So I there were a couple people. I don't really. I know Wobbin is one of them, but I don't know what. I know there's a couple of other people that I have. In fact, one guy picked me up and took me up there once. So, but I don't remember who those people were. I'd have to go really back and look. It's been a while, so. If you wanted to contact them, start from that.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I can do my research about trying to figure out who my contacts there are.
Okay.
so. Are we
Yeah.
saying that Beth is going to contact them, and then we also recommend having someone still come out to speak with us as well? So
Right. In the meantime, I'll try to track down some of my contacts and try to make another contact and kind of tell them what our problems have been with and why it hasn't been working for us. And maybe they can come up with some answers before they come out.
Yeah.
Okay, so who would be arranging the meeting for them to come
Beth,
out? and
Beth,
speak with us?
Beth is at this point. Yes.
Okay, so Beth. Now, Melinda, I see you have your hand raised. You're on your mic is on.
Sorry. I recommend that we invite the executive director, Dawn Simonson, to come out, start at the top. She's been at that agency the longest. I used to work with her, right, Christina? And I also know the chair of their board, Chris Orluck, who was the director of the senior programs for the city of Maple Grove, who's now retired, but I used to work with Chris quite a bit. And so I'll do some reconnaissance with Chris and kind of scope out, what we're trying to do. And then I think from there, Beth, you should invite Dawn to come and speak with us, just because I think she's has the most expertise on the
Good.
staff and
Good.
would be the best person
And would
to
be
make
most
any
accountable.
changes. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, wait, what did you say, Melinda? It's Dawn. What was her last name?
Dawn Simonson.
Simonson. Got
Yeah,
it.
you can Google her name. I just
I will.
did, and a lot of information will come up about her and
Perfect.
the agency and who all their board members are. And they have a couple of advisory committees as well. So, I mean, they really are trying to see community output or input, I mean.
Great.
And I think they'd be open to speaking with us.
It is a interesting time because I get there's a lot of staff transition going on right now
Yeah.
as well. There's a lot. I mean, it seems like almost every position was open for trellis. So
Well, they had some retirements.
yeah. So with that transition may also be a good time as new people are coming into place to introduce ourselves and connect with them.
Yep.
So thank you, Melinda. Janet, I see you had your hand, and then Christina. I know she you were Janet.
You muted, Janet.
No? Okay. Christina.
I have kind of a hard stop this time at 2:30. I'm going to be meeting with community members of our East African community to talk about their elders and how we and my team can connect. So just let me know what meeting, just so I can be clear on setting up agenda, Beth. I will commit to getting Lisa or someone who can speak to our navigators as well as the funding, the potential funding that's coming down specific to home repairs. And then Beth, you can reach out to Ernie, Angelique, and myself and let us know if Dawn's able to attend the August meeting or even September.
Yeah, I'll invite her to either August or September and see what works for her schedule.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, and I'll make sure the information gets to Christina about Westminster and parking and transportation routes.
And I'll work with you, Angelique, on the parking payment.
Okay. All right. So
Okay, I'm sorry I won't be there next meeting. I'll miss you all, but I'll keep in touch and I'll send a mass email out about what I hear from Dawn as follow-up.
Have fun at Disney World and just stay safe.
Disneyland. It's really all about the
Disneyland.
college tours is what I'm doing, but that's the little
Yep.
bonus for the whole crew. So
Yeah, I'll miss seeing you next month too. I'll be on my way to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
oh, fabulous.
Nice.
okay.
Very good.
I'll be sitting in city offices.
Well,
I'll be
someone's
somewhere
got
in
to do it,
Nebraska.
Christina. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
With
stay
that being
safe.
said, I'll move to adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second.
All righty. Please take care and have a great,
Stay
excellent
well, all.
Yeah, you too. Stay well. Bye-bye.
cheerio.
Cheerio. Thanks, everybody.